you really gain an understanding that you are choosing the reality that you're in the way that you feel or the way that you want to feel. What I do a lot in sessions, and I think what's taught in the book, is that there is this perfect relationship going on between you, the human, and you, your divine counterpart. But somewhere along the line, we have been taught that we need to do different. We need to effort in our experience. We have to change the way that the human thinks. We can't be negative. My group has said to me that negativity is the truth that the human holds that's actually preventing what the universe holds from delivering to them, what they have created by the feelings that they've had. So in essence, everything that you feel is worthy. Everything that you feel is being lifted or transmuted to a higher level of consciousness. And that experience would flow to you very naturally from the universe. You wouldn't have to effort. You wouldn't have to go back to yourself as a human and think, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I need to do that over. That was the wrong thing to do, the wrong thing to say, the wrong feeling to have, because that's actually what's creating the disconnection. And we don't even realize it. We think that somehow we're not perfect enough, or we've done something that is condemnable enough or judgeable that we're not a match to the universe. And that's just not true. We're doing that to ourselves in the way that we are looking at what we have chosen to feel. So there's a judgment or a condemnation about being controlling, about being angry, about any of the emotions that you might deem as negative. There's you attaching to those as the human and becoming that. And what we really know is that human part of you isn't going to go on forever. I think we all know that it is going to die. It will end. So that's like a tool or a vessel that we're using for experience. And so what reason do we have to really attach? It is doing nothing wrong in the way that it feels. It's simply picking a signal, an emotional signal, and it's releasing that to the universe. This is how I feel right now. Do something for me, make something out of it that I prefer. But they inadvertently hang on to that signal and become it, attached to it, and therefore cannot match their source in the love of self. If they would just love themselves for what they have felt, they would become a match to the divinity part of themselves. And then the flow would start. They would automatically start experiencing things that they really want to feel in their experience.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love the way you talk about love. Because love is such a powerful, it's a superpower. And it allows us, because initially we are conditioned to hold this negative beliefs. And you're right. We seem to want it to be complicated. Then we break through the resistance and we feel successful. So we are having to go all the other way to positive. We're having to seek positivity in order to get out of the negativity. And then we come to a place where we are neutral. And I think this is the power of our spiritual transformation. That we are able to embody neutrality as observers over a period of time, because they will always exist. The negative will always be there, the positive will always be there. And it's about not clinging to one or the other, but being able to align to whatever we need to achieve the goal at hand, to
Yeah.
achieve intentions that we are being led. So this is wonderful. It's freedom. Neutrality is freedom. Welcome to this episode of Daily Soul Bytes Show. I am your host, Bola Abimbola. And this is a show where we interview guest authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs in the fields of spirituality, psychology, and leadership to share their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Robin Jelinek. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thank you, Bola. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Robin is all the way in Washington, USA at the moment. So that is really great. I'll read a bit about Robin before we start. Robin Jelinek is an author and a channel. She experienced a Kundalini awakening years ago, which has greatly enhanced her ability to channel in a very powerful way. She now channels a collective called Athena in Truth, and she also channels Shiva. A book was channeled by the Athena in Truth Collective and is titled Choose Your Universe, an exercise in truth. What a title! What a
Mm.
title. Welcome, Robin. I would love you to tell us a bit more about the book in a minute, but I do want to know more about you, how you came to this place where you're now channeling the Athena in Truth Collective. How did this Kundalini awakening happen? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I think the most important thing to let people know is that your spiritual creation isn't a whole lot different than your personal creation. It sounds good, or more important to be a spiritual creation or a connection, but it's really no different when you set your mind to something in your everyday life that you would, in the way that it would make you feel, that perhaps you want to attain some type of a business of your own or become something that you would do in your work, and then that is going to make you feel a certain way. That's really why we attempt to do anything. And for me, the spiritual awakening was much the same. I had a love for it. I just really enjoyed it. I liked reading everything that I could about it, talking to other people that were interested in it. Pretty much, I had a good friend that was a channeler that I met later in life in my 40s. And I would say I started this journey probably in my early 20s. I was already reading books from all different types of destinations and psychics, mediums, all of it I was very interested in. And so I would say that the path for me started fairly early on. And I'm really happy about that because I was able to share it with my kids all along the way. And my husband, he was pretty busy in his work, but he was open to listening to different things that I was reading. Sometimes I would read him a book in a car as we were driving or traveling. And so it was just fun for me. I just really enjoyed it. And I think the biggest message is that if you have fun with something and you have a passion for that and the way that it makes you feel is very connective, that's what I really feel that caused this connection to occur for me.
Mm, I love that. I love that you started this early on, very similar to me, actually. I
Mhm.
also, reading is also a very powerful permission slip for me. So I know that we all have different permission slips, and I love the way you said, if there's something that you really enjoy, follow
Mhm.
it, thread of excitement. And that passion is the language of the higher self, the language of love that allows us to be more expanded. When did the Kundalini awakening happen? And what were you doing at that time and what happened afterwards?
Yeah, well, I would say initially in my 20s, it was just a really joyful, fun path of reading and studying and getting to know different aspects of spirituality. I just really enjoyed it. Then as time went on, I had a busy spell there. I was raising two children. We were running our own business at the time. So between ages of maybe 24 and 25, up to in my early 40s, that was the child rearing years, the business running years. And so really all I had time for during that time was just things that I would do in my free time, like reading and listening to different recordings and things like that. When I reached my early 40s, my children actually went away to college, which kind of threw me into a grief state because I really enjoyed being a mother. It was one of the things that really aligned to me in my life, and I really missed them when they left the house. And I found myself with a lot more time than what I had had before since they were now gone. And I continued that practice, and I started to get more into the chakras and understanding how we create rather than just listening to like maybe psychics or mediums and reading books. I got more into what I would call ancient teachings or what other enlightened beings used as teachings. And one of those things was the energy centers. I was really drawn to it. So it was one of those breadcrumbs that I picked up. And once again, I loved it. It felt connective to me. It felt like the right next thing for me to do. I never want to leave someone with the impression that it's the thing that they must do. People find their own connections in the way that they do it. And if it aligns to you, it makes you feel really good when you do it, then that's probably the right thing for you to do. I used a practice where I breathed into my energy centers every night before I would go to sleep. And I would do this practice up and down 2 or 3 times, probably about 2.5 or 3 months into the practice. And I knew about Kundalini energy. I had read about it. And I would say that I was interested in activating it. So it wasn't like it was unknown to me. I did have some understanding of it. And I can't really say that I thought for sure that it would happen, but it was almost like I just set out doing things in that direction. Let's just use that. And probably about 3 months in, I had a very dramatic rising where I just closed my eyes and was going to begin my nightly practice, and my arm went up in the air, and I felt an electrical jolt. It felt like a lightning bolt hit me. That's the only way I can describe it. And that lightning, in fact, started the spin of the energy centers. And I've talked about this in a lot of other recordings, so I probably won't go into the whole thing here today because people have probably already heard it. But I had all the bells and whistles. I felt the rise. I felt each center get penetrated. And there's a lot of things that you experience when that energy rises. And I had a partial rising. It wasn't a complete rising. It veered off to the aside, and I had an awareness of that. And I would say in the next 2 years, I struggled with a little bit of the dark night of the soul. Things became flat in my life, not much fun. The things I used to enjoy, I wasn't really enjoying as much. And I had this feeling that something inside of me had died. It was like all of the old ways of being or the things that I was really finding fun in or happiness in just didn't seem to have the same effect on me. And so that period of time went on for a while. And then I had another encounter with the Kundalini energy where it actually came down through the top of my head. And this is something I had never read about or even knew that was possible. And it's indescribable when that happens to you, the power that the universe has when it attaches to you. And it felt like a train. The noise of a train and the pressure was like a jackhammer hitting me on the top of my head, and I felt it break through. And the only reason I knew it was Kundalini energy is after that transpired, some of the other noises and symptoms that I had felt the first time, whooshing sound, the spinning sound, sounds like 1,000 hummingbirds in the room. I started to hear some of those same familiar sounds, and I realized, oh, this is coming the other way. This is coming down through the top now. And then I felt that whoosh where it actually penetrated the heart center, where I think it didn't quite make it through there because there was a lot of energy maybe contained there when I had the first rising of it. And I would say very quickly after that time, things started to improve. I started to realize that, I could be with people that maybe weren't on a spiritual path and still find things to enjoy about them. I just broadened me in the way that I moved in my relationships and the way that I felt in my life. And things started to balance out and become better because of it. But I didn't have the channeling ability at that time. Maybe it was available to me. And I think the important thing to know is that timing is so important in your life. If you're, really busy in something, or if you're raising your children, or you're running a business, or there's something that you as a human find very important or are connected into, the universe will just wait, and it doesn't even worry about this time around. It could be your next life or your next life. It's not really looking at timing the way that you're looking at it. So it's something that just very naturally happens when the timing is right. I don't think in my early 40s that I would have been ready for the type of exposure that I've had, or the conclusions that people might draw by what I'm doing, or even with my children would have been ready at that time. So in looking back on it, I can see having this happen in my early 60s, although I was disappointed I could have been doing it for 20 years because I was probably ready for it back then. I can really see why it waited until this age before it really came to fruition. About the age of 60, I was asking some questions of myself. A lot of them had to do with confidence. I wanted to be more confident in my life and couldn't understand why that was difficult for me. And in that moment, that's the breath that I felt come into me. That was the first time that I experienced the presence of something that was outside of myself that had entered into me. And I really felt in that moment what it felt like to be confident, what it felt like for a woman to be confident in herself, which I had never felt before. And at that point, I still wasn't quite sure what it was. I knew something had happened. It didn't feel like me. It felt different than me. And then in the coming weeks or month or so, there were a lot of, we talked about light language a little bit before we started. Mine comes in the form of mudras or hand movements. And I was doing it to myself all over my body. It was almost like something was trying to heal me with these motions and moving of energy. And I would have lots of yawning times 1,000, lots of feeling like my mouth was stretching in different directions, very odd sensations that I couldn't really explain why they were happening. And then shortly after that, I was traveling for a weekend with my son, telling him some of the odd things that were happening to me. And as soon as I started talking about it, I felt my body start moving, and I wasn't doing it. And he said, well, if something's in there, why don't you come out and talk? And that's actually what started the exchange. That's what it started.
Oh, that is beautiful. I love the way your intentions were were there. You knew your intentions, you held your intentions, and somehow synchronicity, the timing worked out, the universe worked with you. But I picked up on you having intentions with the Kundalini awakening, with the wanting to become more confident. You knew what you wanted at some level, and
Yeah,
the universe worked with you. And I wanted to just pick up on that. That is beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
yeah,
And I would love to know about the beings you channel. But first, let me say the Kundalini awakening is such a powerful experience. When I had a Kundalini awakening, I thought my head was going to explode.
yeah,
I couldn't actually wear, I had to cover my head for months. my crown had to be covered. Whether I was awake, whether I was asleep, my crown felt so sensitive. And it was almost as if I couldn't even touch it. I couldn't even wash my head. It was so sensitive. So it is, something is happening. You know there's something going on here. And we are led by the intentions we hold, because I have also held intentions all my life from the age of 18 onwards. The first book I read that really opened me up was the book by Ramana Maharshi titled Who Am I? And that was at age 18. That was it was on the shelves at home. And these are the things that I know we can come to accept about our own selves. The things that hold our attention, the things that drive us, we can come to accept rather than resist. They will guide us to our best outcome. So I wanted to share that yes, it led to Kundalini awakening, but it was after that that I really began to channel myself. And the light language and everything comes after that. And
Yeah,
it's a journey. It's not like, you don't get any more negative thoughts. It's not like you do not have any encounters which are not preferred. You do
yeah,
still have these things, but you are now guided and you find it quicker to
yeah.
align to the higher perspectives, which is what my book contains. I've also written a book, Daily Soul Bytes, and it's about the higher perspectives of higher self. And I do want to talk about your book now before we go into um because I would love to hear more about Athena in Truth Collective and
Mhm.
Shiva. But tell
Yeah,
us about your book. This
yeah,
is Choose Your Universe, very powerful. Choose your universe and exercise in freedom. How
yeah.
did that come about?
Well, surprisingly, quite easy. I didn't write it. I just sat down and allowed that information to come through me. And actually, I didn't know at that point that that was even possible or that was part of my channeling experience. I remember being younger, and this is what I think is kind of funny, thinking I should write a book. And I thought, well, why would I write a book? I have no experience to really write about, necessarily. But yet there was like this ongoing knowing almost back in my early 20s. And I even attempted to sit down and try to think of something to write a book about and found it to be arduous, hard, something, and concluded, I'm not a writer. What am I even thinking about this for? And then when this experience happened, I was just shocked because I used to think that there's a lot of people writing, they must enjoy it. However, when I tried to do it, I found it terrible. I found it hard. I didn't like it. It didn't feel like flow or easy to me. But when the channeling experience began and I sat down to write, now I understood why people like to write because it flowed effortlessly. I didn't even have to think. The fingers just went on the typewriter with one chapter after the another just coming right through me. And then I would read it back and think, who the heck wrote that? That doesn't seem like anything I could come up with on my own. And so then from there, I've been actually a lot of the channeling that I do with the Shiva energy, and this has just come in, I would say, in the last year or so. The Kundalini energy, the bells and whistles when that Kundalini energy takes off, is really the beginning of the journey. A lot of people think, oh, wow, my Kundalini is awakened and I'm awake now. No, you're not. That energy has to work throughout your entire nervous system, adjusting you and removing anything that is lodged in the system before your soul aspect of yourself can really occupy that vessel fully. So you're going to come up against a lot of shaking and a lot of different bodily movements and kriyas. I had a lot of those types of things that were going on. And it took 25 years actually. And then when I was sitting, there was an announcement that the energy had reached the crown. And when the energy reaches the crown, it's actually unifying with the male aspect or the Shiva energy. And then you gain access to that perspective or level of consciousness. And I noticed right away after that occurred a real uptick in the writing, in the level of what would come through and the depth. And it was Shiva that was actually the one that's channeling most of the transmissions that I do. I have on my website a membership that people subscribe to where they get these written transmissions. And I think they're some of the best channeling work that I do. It's better than the verbal things that I am actually doing. So that's kind of how that occurred to me. I got a little off the topic there, but maybe you can guide me back in the direction you'd like me to go in.
Yes, the book. So this is titled Choose Your Universe.
Yeah.
Now, I know that we are definitely going through timelines as we go moment to moment throughout the day.
Yeah.
How does your book work? Because I know it's something similar, it's something along those lines.
Yeah.
Tell us what
Mhm.
the reader can expect to get when they read the book.
Yeah, you really gain an understanding that you are choosing the reality that you're in the way that you feel or the way that you want to feel. What I do a lot in sessions, and I think what's taught in the book, is that there is this perfect relationship going on between you, the human, and you, your divine counterpart. But somewhere along the line, we have been taught that we have need to do different. We need to effort in our experience. We have to change the way that the human thinks. We can't be negative. My group has said to me that negativity is the truth that the human holds that's actually preventing what the universe holds from delivering to them, what they have created by the feelings that they've had. So in essence, everything that you feel is worthy. Everything that you feel is being lifted or transmuted to a higher level of consciousness. And that experience would flow to you very naturally from the universe. You wouldn't have to effort. You wouldn't have to go back to yourself as a human and think, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I need to do that over. That was the wrong thing to do, the wrong thing to say, the wrong feeling to have, because that's actually what's creating the disconnection. And we don't even realize it. We think that somehow we're not perfect enough, or we've done something that is condemnable enough or judgeable that we're not a match to the universe. And that's just not true. We're doing that to ourselves in the way that we are looking at what we have chosen to feel. So there's a judgment or a condemnation about being controlling, about being angry, about any of the emotions that you might deem as negative. There's you attaching to those as the human and becoming that. And what we really know is that human part of you isn't going to go on forever. I think we all know that it is going to die. It will end. So that's like a tool or a vessel that we're using for experience. And so what reason do we have to really attach? It is doing nothing wrong in the way that it feels. It's simply picking a signal, an emotional signal, and it's releasing that to the universe. This is how I feel right now. Do something for me, make something out of it that I prefer. But they inadvertently hang on to that signal and become it, attached to it, and therefore cannot match their source in the love of self. If they would just love themselves for what they have felt, they would become a match to the divinity part of themselves. And then the flow would start. They would automatically start experiencing things that they really want to feel in their experience. But there's a teaching that has kind of been put in place, and it's a little dogmatic, really. It's like anything else in the human experience that we have to make things difficult or harder than they are in order to be worthy of attaining something. And what I've learned and what's really been freeing to me is that spirituality is natural and that there's nothing that you ever do wrong or that you have to change. And it gave me this sense of freedom to go out and live and to go out and feel myself and to not have any judgment or condemnation over it. That's a gift from the divine. That's not me, the human, efforting that into my experience. When you start to love yourself in everything that you feel, the divinity part of you begins to merge or infuse itself with you. And therefore, it makes it very easy for you to allow feelings to flow right through you. So you become like a screen door. So you'll actually
Mm.
feel all of the emotions, but you won't attach to them. And you'll be very surprised that you can feel something and it'll be a bad feeling, won't feel a whole lot different in the way that it stays with you than a good feeling does. You'll get a recognition right away. I know that the divine is receiving me in this, and I'm not going to condemn or judge myself in the way that it felt. And you will release it very quickly. And then the experiences will just roll on in. It's not supposed to be difficult or efforting.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love the way you talk about love. Because love is such a powerful, it's a superpower. And it allows us, because initially we are conditioned to hold these negative beliefs. And you're right, we seem to want it to be complicated. Then we break through the resistance and we feel successful. So we are having to go all the other way to positive. We're having to seek positivity in order to get out of the negativity. And then we come to a place where we are neutral. And I think this is the power of our spiritual transformation, that we are able to embody neutrality as observers over a period of time, because they will always exist. The negative will always be there, the positive will always be there. And it's about not clinging to one or the other, but being able to align to whatever we need to achieve the goal at hand, to
Yeah.
achieve intentions that we are being led. So this is wonderful. It's freedom. Neutrality is freedom, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
And
I think the important thing is to recognize that you as a human get to select how you feel and release the feeling. But you as a human are not the one that is formulating the solutions to problems or the connectivity that you're receiving in your life. All of that is done by the universal part of you or your God source or whatever you're comfortable calling it. So it's to understand that you are not expected to effort. You are not expected to change anything in the way that you feel or to do anything different than you're doing it. That once you have felt something, you've done your job as a human and you can know that it has been received. You don't need to send it over and over again and suffer in it. And actually, that's why you're suffering. Let's talk about that for a minute. The universe has received you in the way that you have felt the moment you have felt it. When you decide to feel that way over and over and over and over and over again, then you get mirrored that feeling over and over and over and over and over again. And that's the universe really trying to signal you, hey, I got that piece of mail a long time ago. Let that out of your field so that I can merge with you, that you can become a match to me, release the suffering that you created and become aligned to me in the love of yourself and how you felt. And then the things that you are wanting would just come right to you. There wouldn't be any efforting. There's no you ever trying to change yourself or to make yourself feel differently than what you are. And I think that's a real important aspect of all of this. Is that even when you don't believe, let's use that, or even when you don't trust, something in your experience has caused that. So if you go out trying to change that way of being, then the human is going to buck up. And why is it? Because you've already released that to the universe. It already has that in it. You can't suck back out what it is you have deposited in the way that you felt. And the way that you feel as you try to do that is your sign or signal that you're attempting to do something as a human that's not productive. It's not possible for you to retract something that you have felt. It has already been received and the universe has already expanded with it. So it is just important for people to really recognize that you have been received in what it is that you want to feel in your life. And that when you are sending it over and over again, you're just going to become frustrated. And that really is the signal from the divinity part of yourself that that's already created for you. We've already taken care of
mm,
that problem and developed the solution to it.
mm, I love that. I love that. And I think what really helps that human self to surrender is love.
Yes.
I don't think it can be forced. It's not something that we can do through any kind of angst. We have to, that human self, that ego self, that collective of personalities and identities have to come to feel safe,
Yeah.
secure. And they have, and this is through our own healing. This is whatever modality. And I love it when you said it it is about knowing what works for you. This is everybody's different. It may be reading, it may be energy healing, it may be astronomy, whatever it is that works for you. Knowing that you're being led and allowing oneself to feel safe, to feel secure. And it's a wonderful collaboration because a time comes when we realize that the ego is actually driving the car. It's driving the car through life, but we want to get to a place where the higher self is the one driving the car
Yeah.
and the
And,
ego is in the passenger seat. And
and,
this
and
is this is key. Mm.
But when you look at it, what's really happening when the ego is in the driver's seat? You're in the three lower energy centers and you need your ego. So why would you want to book
Yes.
out? There's lack, there's not enoughness, there's lust, there's competition. I need somebody else's spouse. I need somebody else's money. There's not enough for me, so I'm going to take yours. Those all belong in the three lower energy centers. That doesn't mean you're a lower level being. It means that that's the level of consciousness that oftentimes the universe enters in at. You're taking a very high vibration. The universe itself is compressing itself down, folding itself up, if you will, and placing itself at the base of your spine. And the most effective way that it can do that is to lower its tone down to what is easiest to assimilate itself to you in the dense plane that you're on. And so
Mm.
that lower tone is what we call the egoic tone, is in the first three energy centers. And so as a human starts to experience fourth density, which is the opening of the fourth center or the opening of the heart center, that energy actually starts to come up and infuse that center. There's enough of it leaking up now from the three lower energy centers where I'm starting to observe myself. I'm starting to recognize and get the idea that I have something to do with the experience that I'm in. I'm creating this myself. But what comes with fourth density, and this is a very natural state of evolution, evolution is judgment and condemnation of myself and others. I'm doing it again. I said I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to talk about somebody. I wasn't going to do this thing that is a lower level thing. And so it's like a gradual unfolding, if you will, into the fourth dimension. And so you're noticing other people. You want to kind of tell them that they're doing something wrong because you have this new discovery now of how creation works. And so that energy is very natural. As you stay in that for a while, you start to slip into fifth density, which is just traveling up and opening up the upper energy centers, which are more connective to the higher levels of consciousness in the way that you create. So you know now that I don't need anybody else's stuff. I can do this for myself. I believe in myself. I start to recognize who I am, and what I'm here for. And in this state, I no longer judge and condemn. I realize that I can feel emotions. I can release them. I don't have to attach to them. The universe is connecting to me. It's assisting me. That's something we didn't mention. The detachment from negativity comes through the divine guidance or connection. It is not you as the human deciding you're not going to be negative anymore. It's by the flow of the energy that you yourself are allowing to yourself in the love of self. That's where it comes from. And so as you enter into the fifth density, you're still might be suffering a little bit. You get mad, you get angry, you have things that you prefer and don't prefer in people, but you don't hang on to them anymore. And you're not hanging on to them, not because you've trained yourself or that you're a better human than everybody else. It's because you've infused yourself with your source who does all the work for you, you see.
Mm, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Would you say, Robin, I love what you said there, and I think it's a really beautiful place to be when we allow the divine nature to really blossom within us.
One of the things I noticed is in this process, and maybe you have too, is other things start to unfold, and it's going to actually unfold on the general population eventually. But telepathy is a big part of my experience, and what I mean by that, I used to think about telepathy and think, "Wow, I don't know if I want that because I'll be knowing everything my husband's thinking and everything my kids are thinking, and then I'm going to not like it, and it's going to be uncomfortable." And as it naturally started to unfold within me, what I was very surprised at is telepathy comes without judgment or condemnation, and it comes without emotion. So I could go to a person and say, I don't like you very much, and I think you're not a very good player at whatever it is you're doing, and I could insult them, and they would become insulted by my words. But I could actually, in a higher state of consciousness, have the communicative ability with telepathy to feel the truth of what I was actually feeling towards someone, and they would actually receive it in truth, and therefore there would be no discrepancy between us or argument or anyone opposing anyone. That's what I found really shocking. And I think it's important to know that as consciousness rises, a sixth sense is going to enter the plane. It's already entered my plane. It doesn't show up with everyone. The consciousness of those that I'm interacting with, that I'm getting telepathic communication with, are often well along the spiritual path, or they're having that ability or getting close to that themselves. However, I have gotten it in some other areas that were quite unexpected. But the most pleasant thing that I experienced is the thing that I worried about is, am I going to be angry about knowing what someone's really thinking or getting that kind of communication? And the answer to that question was revealed to me, and no, because it does not come with condemnation or judgment. It comes from a different level of consciousness of which that is not a part of.
Mm. And it is a lovely thing to experience that difference in essence. So I love the way you put it as telepathy, and there is certainly a need for us to allow,
Mhm.
because we will sense that difference whether we've had an awakening or Kundalini awakening or not. As we develop that spiritual self, we will begin to see ourselves communicating in a different way. We will feel it. Others will sense it. And I wanted to just touch on that as something that some of my audience, some of your audience may be watching this and thinking, I'm experiencing some of that.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm talking to someone and then I feel a I feel a different sense of essence within me. And
Mhm.
it's about allowing, because this is the expansion of consciousness within us. And I think it's just important for us to point, and it's a beautiful thing. It's
Mhm.
a beautiful thing, I have to say. It feels good. So I would love to thanks for sharing your book. That's really beautiful. Um, and I will encourage our audience to get that copy, because really the universe we have is the one we have chosen. And it's about love, it's about freedom, it's about acceptance, because this is really what makes us the empowered beings that we are rather than victims. Um, I would love to invite the Athena in Truth Collective
Mhm.
or Shiva to any message that may come through at this time that is pertinent for the expansion of collective consciousness. That would be really appreciated.
Mhm. Yeah, doesn't take us long to acclimate. Robin is one that wanted us to be ever ready or ever present. It is this that she feels most comfortable in. We tell her we are the keepers at the gate, or the one that will decide whether or not anything would be allowed to be transmitted through her, aside from the group that she is now known as Athena in Truth. Yeah. What we want you to know that as consciousness expands, there are going to be a host of things that humans are going to start to experience that they are not used to, or that is different maybe than the regular five senses that they have normally had. One of them is the telepathy, or the ability to communicate through the way that one feels. Yeah, it could be likened to an empathetic ability. However, it can be more detailed, where actual words are being heard or transmitted between two individuals that are not speaking. Yeah, that's one of the things that might be happening. We want you to know that consciousness is rising. It is reaching a tipping point, or a place where the vibration of the planet is being affected by it. The Earth is to be looked at a little bit like you as a human vessel. Yeah, as the vibration of the planet increases, just like your vibration increases, as you come into contact with those that perhaps are not vibrating at the same rate of you. Maybe they're not on a spiritual path yet, or this kind of thing hasn't really entered into their field or their way of thinking. It's going to become more and more apparent just by the vibration. So nobody's getting left behind, basically. Everyone eventually will be stimulated by the new high vibration and get swept up in this gradual transformation or shift that is about to occur. Yeah, there are so many good things that are coming. We've done a lot of recordings that there are things that other channels are saying, and that is based upon viewing in suffering what they are now presently seeing. So sometimes these can be alarming to a human. That can make them fearful. It can make them uh, 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 worrisome, or as though they need to protect against something that might be coming with their money or their homes or these types of things. So it creates a little bit of an alarm when they hear things that we're headed into a tough period or a time of trouble. Let's use that term. Yeah. But we want you to remember that you have the ability through your focus to direct it in any way that you want to, in the way that you want to feel. You have an individual universe around you, much the same as the Earth has its atmosphere around it. And so you have all these satellites that are around the Earth, yeah, that have been launched up there and that are being used. And then you as a human are feeling your experience. And every time you are emoting or looking or putting attention on something, you are adding that way of being or feeling to the universe that is yours, or pertinent to you. Let's use that. So the idea of changing how you think or changing how you feel doesn't really make a lot of sense, because you have already added this to your universe, and therefore you can't take it out. The universe has expanded as a whole, and so have you. Yeah. So rather than worrying about negativism, about what might be coming or what you thought about in the past that was not positive, why not hold yourself in a resonance of which negativity is not a part of? Then you will actually attract into your experience exactly what it is that you personally want to feel, and then you will expand that feeling in the universe as well. It is not as though a new world has not been created in love. It has. The universe vibrates at a level of love. Every feeling, every war, every emotion, every controversy, every bit of racism, all of it has been received in the universe as a whole, and the desire behind it is known. It has been lifted, and a new world has been created because of it. But humans are doing the same thing as they have always done. They are holding resonance in suffering. They are holding the tone or the way that they feel in their experience in a lower tone than what the universe has for them to deliver. Yeah. So it is very important that those that are on a spiritual path take this teaching and understand that their focus is vital to opening up the field and bringing in the new world that has already been created. If you continue to suffer, if you continue to look at all the things as proof or evidence of what is coming, then that is what you will experience, more and more of same. You have way more control than you think you do. You are way more powerful as one in alignment than many, many, many are who are not in alignment. So use your focus and your intent for what you think the universe has created by all of those things that everyone has been worrying about, and be one of the ones that is actually instigating the change that you want to see in the world, rather than agreeing to what you are presently seeing in form. What is form really? It is something someone is perceiving, something that someone is believing in. And primarily, people like to believe and perceive things that are stimulating the way that they emote, or the negativity that gets their attention. Let's use that term. If you can guide yourself into a good feeling, into a love place, you can align to the universe and what it has created, and be one of those that is actually doing what you set out to do when you came here during this very critical and important time upon the plane, you see.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Athena. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm back. That's how that goes for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Really powerful message. Thank you so much, Robin. I would love you to tell us where viewers can find you, where our listeners can find you,
Yeah,
when they want to
absolutely.
reach out to you.
Yeah. I have a website. It's called athenaintruth.com. My podcast, YouTube, all of my courses that I offer, meditations, private sessions, all of those are contained on that website. I'm recently developing a new website with my son. It's called Athena Universe. It's going to be up shortly in a matter of a few days. And that site primarily is going to be more written information and more access through questions and answers that could come in written form, rather than having to necessarily schedule a session that would be pretty far out into the future. Maybe somebody has something pressing that they would prefer to do it by email or by text. And that's what we're presently setting up right now. So I'm most grateful for all of the people that I work with. I do a lot of work in the Kundalini arena. I do activations, 20 people at a time monthly, where we work on assisting people in raising that Kundalini, in releasing emotions that are actually preventing the rise, and also really trying to increase their perception and belief in themselves. Most people that are getting a Kundalini transmission are believing someone else can get it for them, and therefore removing their own distrust, their own disbelief. That's actually the thing that's causing them not to bring in the desire that they're holding. So this is the work that I do primarily, having felt every aspect of that energy, from a partial rising to a dark night of the soul to a full rising. I can really help anyone on that path or journey that is struggling with anything in regard to that energy.
And you have an event coming up in Sedona?
I do. I'm going to do my first live event. It will be the Sedona Transcendent Retreat. It's in September. I think it's the 18th, 19th, and 20th. So I'm looking forward to that. That's something I haven't done before. So I will be there for that whole weekend.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Robin.
Thank you so much. Good
Mm.
day.
And I would love to thank my audience and Robin's audience for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Daily Soul Vibes Show. Bye bye.